am so excited to be here today with my friend and someone I really look up to, Aaron Parkinson. He's the CEO of 7 Mile Media. He is a virtual marketer. He's a speaker and one hell of an entrepreneur. His podcast, the Sales Velocity podcast that he hosts with Andrew Cass, is one of my favorite podcasts. I listen to it all the time and learn as much as I can because it talks about how to sell more with less resistance. Who doesn't want to learn that skill? I think everybody does, right? So Aaron, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. You're a total rock star, and I really admire the life that you've created for your family, and I look forward to sharing that with people because I know that it's not always sunshine and rainbows. You've created a really incredible business, but I would love to, share your story with others so that they understand what it took for you to get to where you are right now.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me on your show, and thanks for all the nice words. I kind of just go through the motions. So when somebody says all these nice things about them, I go, oh, well, somebody actually likes what I'm doing. So that's a good sign. I'll give everybody like the quick Coles notes, when somebody doesn't know me. So I got started in the digital marketing space in 2004. I actually started in a network marketing company, and they were telling me to do flyers and home meetings and stuff like that. And I was like, this sucks. How about I use this tool called the internet, and then I'll generate my leads from there. So started doing that, went very in debt, probably $70,000 to $100,000 in debt of my family's money to kind of figure it out. But a year later, I was number 2 in that company, and I was making, about $50,000 a month in commissions. And for me being 27 at the time, that was like $1 million, right? Yeah. Like nobody makes this amount of money. Like I didn't know I was middle class and didn't have a lot of like mentors and stuff. So like nobody knew how to counsel me through that, experience, and then did what everybody does. Spent it all on stuff I wanted. Didn't set any aside for taxes. Got my first tax bill that was like $100,000 and was like, oh my God, this can't even be real. Right. Like, I didn't save any money for this. Right. So then you start like the wheel of like, I'm a year behind on my taxes, and now I have to figure out like how to pay that and still live. And the business is fluctuating up and down and whatever. So that was a fun experience. And then I left that company about 2.5 years later, and I launched one of the first ever online marketing education platforms where, I essentially made it generic. So I was primarily targeting the network marketing industry, affiliate marketing industry, basically saying, look, you can do it your way or you can do it my way. And I was teaching how to build funnels and copywriting and tech integration and back-end coaching and all these different digital marketing elements. And we ended up growing to 100,000 students in 80 countries, paying us $150 a month in subscription plus high-end coaching. And then I really felt like, okay, now I'm super rich, right? Like I'm flying around in private jets. I'm doing partnerships with guys like Simon Sinek from Start With Why and David Bach from Automatic Millionaire, and got this office in Soho, New York, and did that for about 5 years. And then I sold it to my partner because I was kind of tired, to be honest with you, of the network marketing industry. I wanted to try something else. And then out of nowhere, I got offered this opportunity to essentially be the CEO and the owner of a network marketing company. And the partners wanted to bring in like 10,000 distributors from Herbalife. And I said, cool, let me develop like the best retail model ever, because I was kind of tired of certain elements of the recruiting. And so we built a 6-month-long weight loss and fitness program called Automatic Body. I built my own supplement line, like literally sat down and did all the testing, built a protein shake, built an energy drink, built a weight loss shot, built a phone app. It was MyFitnessPal was number 1. We were number 2. Had Kim Lyons from The Biggest Loser TV show as the face of that brand. It was called Automatic Body. And everyone said it wouldn't work because nobody wants to spend 6 months losing weight. And I said, yeah, but if they lose it slowly, they'll keep it off. And I had this vision in my mind. And apparently I was right, because we had 600,000 users join in 2.5 years. And then I left that company. I sold my shares to my partners. because I really wanted to branch out into something different. And that's when I started my e-commerce brand, which was called Grace Cali Designs, which was basically a beach and boho line, anklets, bracelets, all the stuff that you see in Mexico. And people told me, well, you can't run a female fashion line. You're a guy, you're a dude. And I was like, I bet you I could. So I did it with a Shopify store, drop shipped everything out of China. And we built that from 0 to 10 million a year in sales in less than a year and a half, which was crazy. And I sold that to my partner. And then at that point, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just started consulting people on digital marketing, and they all said, can you just help me out and do it for me? And I was like, damn, now I got to build a team again. So now we have a team of 50 around the world. At any given time, we've got around 70 clients. They're all primarily info marketers. So most of them you've probably heard of. Like I just got off a call with Bethany Hamilton from Soul Surfer, the girl who had her arm bit off by the shark. And we developed her coaching program and her live event program. And those are the types of people that I'll work with, helping them launch their information brands and scale them into the 8-figure a year mark. So that's the super boring stuff. The important stuff, I live in the Cayman Islands. I'm originally from Canada, like you. That's how we know each other. I've been married I'll be 20 years this year. Wow. I'll be married, which is super cool. I've got 3 beautiful kids. And every day is an adventure dealing with 70 different, very passionate, sometimes very egomaniacal clients. But that's not really what we're here to talk about is the successes, because in all of those, stories, there was just a massive amount of failure through that. And I think that's really what you wanted the premise of this to be about today, because everybody sees, the most successful distributor in their network marketing company, or the most successful info marketer, or the most successful software startup or whatever. And they just think that person got lucky or funded, or they're connected, or they're smarter than me. I went to university for a year, and pretty much just drank beer the entire time. Like I'm a dropout, I dropped out too. Yeah. Like I thought I was going to be a professional soccer player, and then I got cut from the national team. And then I thought I was going to fight in the UFC, and then they took my weight division out. And so like, you can't start from a worse spot, in my opinion, than failed athlete, because you have no skills that you have trained on for the like professional world. Like, how to work hard, grind things out. But like, as far as education goes, like, what do you got? How to kick balls or kick people, right? It's not a whole lot to become an entrepreneur with.
It's a tough spot to be in for sure. And especially when you have that strong dream. One thing that I notice a lot in people is they have this vision of their life, or they have this big grandiose dream, and they're like, oh my God, it's got to be perfect. What do I got to do? And they get stalled in the what I got to do to make it perfect. I don't want to fail. I don't want to make mistakes. And so they never really go at that dream full force, because they're so scared of the failure that's going to happen in the meantime. And the problem with that is they don't realize that when they see other successful people, that was failing forward. The failure is the way through to that end game. And that end game, it's okay if your vision changes. Your vision will grow and change. We just walked away from a legacy project that we thought, and I remember you and Liz were even looking at a wedding venue up in Canada, weren't you, at one point in time?
We got so lucky. We were going to be finished that $3 million project the month before COVID hit.
Oh God.
And we walked away. We had a $50,000 non-refundable deposit on that piece of land. And she said to me, your business is growing so big, I think we're better served to go to Cayman, for all the tax advantages. And she loves it here. She's always loved it here. And I walked from 50 grand in cash, and oh my God, what a bullet we dodged. We would not even be in business yet. And that was 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
$3 million sunk into that project.
I look at that and I'm like, man, like had I been still in the hair industry with the salon and the on-site wedding business, I would have been crushed by COVID. By like so many of my friends watching that happen, right? And so what I encourage people to do, and this is what I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about, is finding a way through and adjusting course every time you need to. Like I love that you got your start in network marketing, and I understand why you grew past that. I understand, that you had different opportunities and we're able to try this and try that. We tried the apple orchard thing and we learned a lot from doing those things,
Sure.
right? I learned a lot from running a salon. You learn as you go, and those skills, it's not a failure. It's that you're learning those skills to build onto the next level of life.
Well, and I think that you bring up a really important point there, which is that, I think how we're conditioned in this society is not to fail and to be embarrassed when you fail. And it's a lot of programming to overcome. However, if you look at somebody like Conor McGregor's coach, they wrote a book called We Either Win or We Learn.
Yes,
right? We don't win or we lose. We win or we learn, right? You cannot accumulate enough knowledge to be the success that you want to be without failing as fast and as often as possible to acquire data, right? Like my media agency, my campaign managers, they're always worried about making a mistake. And I constantly have to drive into their heads. Your job is to make mistakes as fast as possible. That's how we collect data. That's how we move on to the next test. Without the mistakes, there's no data. There's no learning. We can't get to where we want to go. So you have to push that out of your mindset, because I'm not going to yell at you. What I'm going to yell at you for is not testing and making mistakes.
Right.
Did you make enough mistakes this week to get us some valuable data? No, you're not my favorite. Right?
I love it.
It's make mistakes as fast as possible, because that's how you acquire data in marketing, in entrepreneurship, in life, right? Which is also why it can be nice to reach out or pay or hire coaches and consultants, right? Do you still work with Ray?
I don't know. I still talk to him. I still do interviews with him, but I don't still work with him. I've been working with Danelle Delgado, and I've worked with a few others that I really important to have people push you to the brink. Like, because there's so many things that I wouldn't do because I'm like, I could do that, but I'm comfortable.
Right. And so I remember your business really took a leap when you started working with Ray, who's a really good coach. Right. Yeah, and so in addition to making your own mistakes, you can avoid some potholes along the way by speaking to people who are further down the line. You are often the good ones you have to hire. And when you're saying, hey, should I do this or this? They say, well, if you do this, here's what's going to happen. Maybe do that. So you can pay to avoid mistakes, which is the only alternative that I'm okay with, is if you want to leverage it. But even still, I'm so sick. Like, even when somebody tells me like, that's a bad idea, I have to scratch the itch. Like I have to, right? Like, I'll be like, I think I should do this. And they're like, I don't think that's a good idea. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. And just so I can like check that box, because it will linger in the back of my head, like meme ads. Like, how many meme ads do you see on Facebook now? Right? Like, there's so many, right? We started that 2.5 years ago, where one of my campaign managers was like, hey man, I didn't want to bring this up to you because I don't want to look like a loser, but like, what if we ran ads with memes in them? I was like, dude, try it. Don't care. Try it out. Highest converting ads we had for 1.5 years, right? Wow. If he'd been worried about bringing it to me, or if I'd been worried about him doing it, think about the amount of money we would lose. Like, as soon as somebody says something, I'm like, try it.
Idea. Let's go.
Try it. Right?
That's so cool. Like, here's what's really cool is that, a lot of leaders would not learn from their staff. Like, a lot of leaders would need the attention and have the ego and whatever. And like, I learned the most from my team. I learned the most from people, because right now in this information era, like, things are changing rapidly. You know this because you're funneling all these people into new ways of marketing and new ways of advertising, because they have to get ahead of the game. Right.
Correct.
And I think that maybe in that situation, having people on the ground that are in the business, that are in the trenches, you being able to be in the trenches with them actually helps you fail forward faster and learn faster. Absolutely.
Like, I had to hire a consultant, because when I first started the agency, I was very hammer and nail, right? I think that's part of your maturation process, is like, I'm smart, you're dumb, do things my way, work harder, do your job, like, get the result. Because I was more of an assassin than I was a CEO. I was an executor, not an operator. right? And I had to pay a very high level consultant who basically said to me, you can't build a team that way. You can't talk to people that way. You're not gaining anything from the people because you're not listening. Your job as a CEO is very different than what you think a CEO does. And I said, well, you tell me, smart guy, because I was still like, whatever, you don't even know what you're talking about. You're like 28. And he said, your job is to recruit the best talent, create the right culture, do joint ventures with other big companies, right? And that's it. That's your job. Recruit the best talent, create the right culture, do joint ventures with other companies. It's not, yelling at people, stomping your feet, being involved, everything. Like he said, you'll never scale that way. So I had to redo my whole culture of my company where I'm like, how can I serve you today?
Right.
What can I give you to help you do your job better? How can I structure this so that you're not stressed out all the time, so that you've got the opportunity to play with your kids and your wife and your husband? And like, I tell them all the time, you don't work for me. I work for you. Right. It's a big difference. And since I made those shifts like 3 years ago, we've had one person quit in 3 years, and they can leave whatever they want. They've got the skill set. I've poured the skill set into them, but they stay because they're happy with the family, with the environment, with what they're learning, all those good things.
That was one of my best lessons. I remember when I first got into network marketing, and I didn't understand why people didn't see the vision and why they kept walking away instead of digging in. I didn't get it. And my father-in-law said to me, he said, Christina, in real estate, real estate brokers bring on 20 people, 10 of them write the test, 5 of them pass, and you might end up with 1 at the end. And he's like, people are always leaving. Your job is to create an environment where they will stay for as long as they can.
Smart man.
Right. And that was a huge because I would get mad. I'm like, I don't get it. What am I doing wrong? Why are they, and I was probably a lot like you. I was a bit of a drill sergeant, and I scared the crap out of people. So I was like, let's go. Like, you're going to be a millionaire. Let's go. Like,
yeah, 100%.
I didn't understand how to communicate with people. I didn't really understand how to support them where they were at. I didn't understand how to create that environment where they felt valued and heard and appreciated. And that lesson, man, is that so important?
Yeah, you can get to a certain level of income through what I call hammer and nail.
Grinding, yeah.
Right? Hammer and nail will get you to a certain level of income. But in order to get to the next level of income, you have to get buy-in from everybody. You can get to a certain level through fear, and they respect you, but they don't like you.
Right.
Right? When you transcend to that next level of they like you and they respect you, and they'll get behind you and you get buy-in, that's when things really start to take off.
That's the magic for sure. And, one of the things we were talking about before we started with the podcast was, talking about how you brought up a little bit earlier, talking about how we've been conditioned, like what's right and wrong, what's good and bad, what's success and failure. And our kids, I was conditioned that way in school. You were conditioned that way in school. We had to start thinking outside of the box. And we look at the big picture now and what we want for our kids, right? And it's really hard when you've created some success. And, I really do appreciate that you've shared some of those failures in the mix, because it's never straight up. It's always, and there's some, by the way, like when you have a lot of success, there's some big lessons that can cost you a lot of money.
Huge lessons. Right? Yeah. I've been through all of them.
Right. And so, but that's how you learn, and that's how you grow. And you have a new responsibility when it comes to money, because it's one thing to make it. It's another thing to keep it and grow it.
It's right? A huge difference. Like when we left Automatic Body, we were $100,000 in back taxes owed to the government, seized bank accounts, no job, me teaching CrossFit. Like 39 years old, 3 kids, looking to move in with your parents.
Wow.
Like, not good. Not good. For only time in my life I felt suicidal, and waking up at 1:00 in the morning every night with my heart jamming, because I'm like, I have failed. I have completely destroyed our life. Right. And but when I look back on it now, I called it my timeout. I believe like you have these times in your life where God gives you a timeout and says, you know what, you need to go sit in your room for a little bit and think about what you've done, like we would do with our own kids, right? Yeah. You just go over here, have a little timeout and think about what you've done. So I got a timeout for about a year where I had to really reflect on how I was running my life and what patterns was I running that was bringing me to this point. And when I came out of my room from my timeout, I realized a couple of very core things that I would have to change. One, would never be beholden to one income stream ever again.
Smart.
Right. And a lot of people think, you know, and I've owned a network marketing company. I was the top distributor of any company in the entire country in the mid 2000s. They think that network marketing is diversified income. It's not. It's subscription revenue in one company. Right. Now, am I saying go out and join 10 companies? No, because you're just watering down that one income stream. Right. I'm saying like anytime somebody said, hey, here's this way that you could make an additional $500 a month recurring, whether it was an affiliate deal I was doing or a coaching client or like whatever, I took it all. Right. And then I realized, oh, wow, if I owned an agency, like I would have 70 different companies. Right. So now I have 70 different companies in my portfolio and I have 10 different referral deals and I own 2 softwares and. So number one was I would never be beholden to one income stream again because I'd gone all in on these things. And then when they crashed, I was holding the bag. Right. And so that was number one. Number two was we would never live on more than 20% of our income ever again, which is a really hard thing for people to wrap their brain around because they're like, well, what if you only make $10,000 a month? I'm like, well, then you better figure out how to make more or you're going to be living on $2,000 a month. Right. Like you have to, like when I used to work with Jordan Belfort, he said, the reason that I'm so rich is because I set expectations and my expectations are higher than everybody else's. If I don't make $10 million a year, I can't sleep. And I remember hearing at the time going,
like, what?
That's insane. Right. But if you watched his movie, you also know he's a little crazy. Right. So for me, it was like, okay, I'm not going to break this rule. I just need to learn how to make more. Right. Because in the past, what I did is I made money and I spent the same amount of money as I made, which put me into this vicious cycle. Right. Yeah. So that was another thing that we put as a solid rule in place. And then the third thing I said is I would never buy myself something flashy again until I had 5 core elements in place. I had multiple rental properties. I had $1 million in the market. I had a $1 million insurance policy. Like I had 5 elements that I said, here's what you have to do before you're allowed to go play with your money. Because what I thought was wealthy is not wealthy. You're like literally 6 months of a bad run away from being poor. Right. And when you're a business owner, when you lose it all, like, it's not like anybody like wants to hire you. Right. They're like, what are you good at? You're like running businesses. They're like, I'm looking for a square peg in a square hole. Like you're not that. Right. So you need to like be really smart with diversifying your income, with, you know, living below your means, and with putting blocks in place that I read this book about becoming anti-fragile. I don't know if you've ever read it before, right? Like everything was about becoming anti-fragile. Right. Because I didn't want to ever go back to that experience again. So that time out gave me an opportunity to reflect on how I needed to be different moving forward. And when I did, my whole life changed because I knew how to do things. I just didn't know how to manage my life, you know?
Well, I think that's the point of life, is like learning as you go through. And, you know, one of the things that I'm very grateful for is you've always been willing to have conversations with me. You know, you've always been willing to sit down and have conversations with me. And a few of the things that you taught me and always rang true in my mind is, like you said, I would take $500 a month, $1,000 a month over and over and over and over again and have multiple of those than one place that's making me $1 million a month. Right.
Absolutely.
Like I'd rather have that completely diversified. And that always rang true. And the other thing was, I know the exhaustion that comes with building a self-consumption model in the network marketing space, right? And you're like, you have to find, if you're going to do this and you're going to help people this way, you have to find a consumer-driven company if you're going to represent
Correct.
them, right?
Correct.
And so that was very, very good advice. And moving forward in branding and all that kind of stuff, I've been watching you and watching how you've capitalized on 7 Mile Media and using your podcast, and it's been really incredible, Aaron, to watch you build this while sitting on the beach in the Cayman Islands with your children and your beautiful wife, and especially for us, being that we just left Canada and are down here in Mexico, and just like, wow, there's another life outside of the one that you were born into. If you just have the courage to take it, like you said, a time out. Did you ever read the book or listen to the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey?
I read like half of it. I think it's still sitting on my bookshelf. I really liked. I haven't read the rest of it, but I liked the half I read. And then I got distracted.
I have a lot of those books that are half read.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it just kind of made me realize, hey, we got to take a pause, and we have to be able to look at our life, evaluate it, not take it critically and like, oh shit, this isn't working, but like be able to move forward and say, hey, where do we need to adjust course here? What needs to be fixed? And that was what we were talking about, is like outsourcing and like how important and incredible that can be for growing your business. Most people, especially entrepreneurs, are a bit control freaks, right?
Sure.
We want to make sure that everything is done the way that we want it done. But outsourcing has been something that you have done incredibly well with your company and your business to create more wealth.
Right. And that's one of those things that I think is a painful lesson that gets learned over time. Right. And it's funny, like the great thing about being in network marketing is you get poured into with personal development. Right. So I saw so many great speakers, and that set the foundation for rewiring my brain. And, they always kept saying, like, think about how much you want to make an hour, and then look at the activities you're doing, and then ask yourself, is that worth the amount per hour that job requires, right? And what you have to realize as an entrepreneur is that where you're going to be the most successful is where when you pour the majority of your energy into, how do I increase sales, right? And now that might be, a lot of people think, well, that's like talking to people on the phone, sort of, right? In the beginning, you have to do that a lot, right? And then as you evolve, you want to talk to the right people, where you've got leverage, right? And then it might be branding, it might be marketing campaigns, it might be finding people that can do those things. Like you have to put as much focus you can into creating cash flow, right? Where we get caught up in a lot of the minutia is the operational stuff, right? The invoicing, the social media posting, the email checking, one of the things I did 3 months ago is I turned off all the notifications on my phone. I have zero notifications on my phone, right? Because I was like trying to do stuff, and then it's like ding, 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 right? I got Slack, I got Skype, I got Zoom, I got, email, Facebook, Insta, like just go and getting nothing done, right? So just like turned it off and said, that's not a valuable use of my time. I'll check that at the end of the day if I feel like it, right? Checking my emails, I'm going to check them once in the beginning of the day, and then that's it, right? How do I prioritize my time so I'm focused on the highest value activities and get rid of all the things that are not high value activities? Like you and I talked about syndicating content, right? You're making this podcast. What should happen next is this should be then put on, it's on Facebook Live right now, right? It should be put on Facebook, should be put on Instagram, should be put on Tik, should be put on YouTube, should be sent to your email list, should be put into a blog, transcribed onto your website, boom, 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 boom. But should you do that?
No, it's so time consuming.
No, right? And the thing is it's so time consuming that you won't even do it properly because you're like, I don't have time for this. So you like half-ass it or don't do it at all, right? Where you can go to the Philippines or Pakistan or India and hire people for $500 a month who are ecstatic to get paid, and give them the framework and say, do this, right? And now you just bought back time that you can invest into cash flow activities, right? It's not that it's a wrong activity, it's the right activity, but it's the wrong person. You're wearing the wrong hat for that activity. You got to take hats off as you grow to become wealthy, right? So I'm always like looking at what can I get rid of? What's below my hourly rate? And that needs to go away from me. And I'm just as bad at it. I look at my calendar every day and go, what should I cancel on here today? Or, what have I done over and over again for the last month that I need to template and hand off to somebody else? It's an ongoing battle.
Absolutely. And so one of the things I want to talk about, because I think this is really important, because we've been raised in the society of this like fixed versus, I've talked to you about this before, is fixed versus growth mindset, right? I was raised in a family where you were just as good as you were. And had I known that it was the hard work and effort that I put in that would have created success or would have gave me the next level up, you talk on your podcast about how to create authority in any niche and how to stand out in front of everybody else. Well, you just have to make a bigger effort to learn more than other people. Right?
Yeah. I mean, business is a sport, right? Yeah. So this is not show up, punch a card, get some money. You're playing a competitive game against everybody else in your space, right? And there's phases. And the first phase is the work phase, right? Everybody wants to skip the work phase to like the chilling on the beach stage. Mm-hmm. Right. And there is no fast track between those two spots. The work stage is nasty, horrible, grinding, million conversations, million processes, million failures. And you have to learn to love it. Like you got to lean into it and accept that it's worth the trade-off over there. And then you get to earn your way in to doing less of those things because your capital allows you to leverage time by putting team members in place or leveraging technologies or whatever. But I don't want to spoil the end of the movie for everybody, right? I still work 9 hours a day. I just have different problems. Right. I'm talking to other CEOs about their company and their problems, and they want to talk to me about it versus pulling all the levers that I was doing. The problems don't go away. They're just different. Yeah. Right. And there's days when I wake up and I go, I don't want to do this. This is stressful and it's a lot of work. And then I go, oh, but I also have 4 houses and no debt and investments. And I make a gazoodles of money and I've got a great family and great kids and everybo's happy and taken care of. And then I go, okay, quit being such a big baby and, sort your life out. There is no way to get around the work, and you have to be more focused, smarter, faster moving, more committed than all the other people in your marketplace. Like that's just the way that it is. It's a sport.
Absolutely. I always tell people maybe it's because I read Izzy books all the time, but I'm like, you can't go over it. You can't go under it. You have to go through it.
100%. Right. And then you figure out, okay, now how do I not keep myself in the same spot forever? How do I train somebody else to take this off my shoulders? How do I go from $50 an hour activities to $1,500 an hour activities? And you just keep playing that game, right? Next year it's going to be like, how do I only focus on $5,000 an hour activities, right? But you don't just get to skip there. That doesn't, you gotta, nobody gets to avoid paying the piper.
No, and this is the beauty of it, and this is why I'm so grateful that you shared with people is that, hey, there are ups and downs. Like you would not be in the position that you are helping other CEOs solve their business problems had you not gone through everything terrible that you've gone through or walked away from things that maybe you weren't in alignment with. When you realize, hey, we tried this, we thought about it, it might have been okay, but it's just there's something about it. And you got to trust your gut feeling and take all of the experience that you had. Like all of you is required. Janelle was somebody that taught me that all of you is required to get to the next level. It's not half-assing it. It's not, I'm going to try this or I'm going to try that. It's everything that you have learned up until this point that you have to give and speed up your rhythm, get faster at doing it or hire it out and help other people do it.
Absolutely. And I'm not trying to scare people because it's worth it. Like I'm psychologically unemployable. I can't even go into places like I got put on a strata board this year, which is a free job to manage our real estate property. And I was like, you're all morons, right? Like I am not a good employee, right? So I have to do this. right? I'm born to do this because I like freedom. I like autonomy. I like making my own decisions. I like paying the price for my own errors. I like getting all the upside for when I'm right. Right. But not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur either.
Yes.
Right. Like it's become a very sexy topic in the last 10 years. Right. It is hard as hell.
Yeah.
Right. You better be all in. If that's your plan, you have to be. And don't feel like you're obligated to fulfill somebody else's idea of what you should be doing. If you are happy as hell showing up at a job 8 hours a day, making 50 grand a year, and, you know, going home and not taking any stress with you and like all that stuff, don't let anybody else tell you you should be one, right? You be you, right? But if you want these things that society tells us we can have, there is only one way to that.
Yeah. You know, it's really interesting. I learned a very valuable lesson when we traveled to Nicaragua one year. We went to the Corn Islands and there were all these kids. And I swear to God, we were the only white people on the island. And all these kids came up to us because we were new. This girl who's 12 hands me a baby. I'm like, I'm now on the beach holding a baby with all these kids. And I'm just like, they have no fear. They go to school for half the day. They didn't know where at 15 years old, they didn't know what Canada was. And
Amazing.
I was like, we got to build schools. We got to teach them. We got to this. And then I was like, wow, when we started having conversations with the locals, they're like, no, they're happy.
They're happy.
They want to be the captain of a fishing ship. They get to spend all their day at the beach with their family and it's beautiful. And this is how, and I'm like, oh my God, how naive was it to think that I was going to press what my beliefs were onto them. And that was a very valuable lesson moving forward, because even now, especially in network marketing, especially in that space, you can't push people to do things they're not ready to do. Like, you can't motivate people. All you can do is motivate yourself and do the work and hopefully inspire them to take action and say, hey, if she could do it, I could do it too. Or if he could do it, I can do it too.
I agree. And there's a great video of a guy that I worked with for about a year. His name's Simon Sinek. He has a video called Start With Why. Mm-hmm. Right. And this reminds me of a point in there where he said that the mistake that most people make is they try to sell everybody on their product. Yeah. Right. But your goal is not to do business with everybody. Your goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe.
Yes.
Right. When you really understand that concept, life gets much easier.
Yeah.
Right. Much easier. You stop banging your head against a wall, pitching the wrong people, the wrong things at the wrong time. Right. And the people you surround yourself with, they all have the same vision. They're all going in the same direction. They all want to be part of the tribe. They're all in alignment. Right. When you try to do business with everybody, it's very difficult to make progress.
Absolutely. Well, Aaron, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a busy guy. I really appreciate you showing up and not crossing me off your list today on the things that you can outsource. So I appreciate you being here, man. It's always good to chat with you. I always learn so much, and I'm just cheering you on, and I love watching you and your family live life on purpose and keep building and keep moving forward. And man, you really inspire me to keep moving.
Well, and now you're like me. You're down in the Southern Hemisphere. You're in the sun. Kids are in the water. Like, I think you're doing all the right things.
Thank you, my friend. Well, we will speak soon, and I'll continue to enjoy your podcast. For those of you that haven't checked it out, the Sales Velocity podcast is something I learn from almost every week. I try to binge watch sometimes and take notes, but I really appreciate you being here, Aaron. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Take care.
If you think this video can help a friend, make sure you share it.